The Old Guard movies are based on a series of graphic novels, and Netflix just released the second installment a few days ago. So, are these movies good enough to continue the series? I'll do a quick recap of the first movie and talk about some issues I had with it, and then move on to the second movie. And I definitely had some issues with this one. But I do feel like the series is redeemable, and if they make a third one, I'll definitely be watching and hope they make up for some of the issues I have with the first two. So in the first Old Guard, Charlize Theron, whose character's name is Andy, leads a group of 4 immortal people who've been alive for a varying number of years. Andy is the oldest, and they hint at the fact that she may have been around for thousands of years. No one in the group knows why they're given immortality, but it doesn't last forever, and they never know when they will lose it. So they're also able to find each other through their dreams. At least it seems they're able to find the new immortals through their dreams. This group has made it their mission to go around saving people in different situations. In present times, Booker, who is a part of the group, presents Andy with a new job from someone they have already done a job for. She makes a point to state that they never work with the same person twice. She takes the job, and of course it's a setup, but they are able to get out of the trap unscathed. We discover that the person that set them up used to work for the CIA, and now he's working with the CEO of a pharmaceutical company to try to capture the group. The CEO wants to experiment on them to find out why they have this immortality, and of course tries to bottle it up or put it in pill form for profit. In the midst of them being hunted, they discover that there's a new immortal, Niall, who Andy tracks down and basically forces to come along. She does eventually accept her fate and becomes a part of the team. There's also 2 characters that aren't present. One is the first immortal that was by Andy's side for years, but she was banished to the bottom of the ocean by mortals who accused her and Andy of being witches. And Andy was never able to find her, or at least she gave up. There was also a guy who was immortal but died, and that's when Andy discovered that the immortality does not last forever. And at some point in the movie, Andy does become mortal herself, and they don't know why in the first movie.
Of course, they all eventually get captured except Niall, who decides to leave to go back to her family. She figures out Booker is a traitor, and she goes back and saves them.
Now, there were a couple of things about this movie that weren't well done, in my opinion. First, it was painfully obvious that Booker was a part of the scheme to have them set up to be experimented on. So first, when Andy said that they don't do the same job twice, remember, they've been around for hundreds of years. She's probably been around for thousands of years, helping fight the good fight, helping out people with saving people. So I'm assuming they've had this rule, or she's had this rule for hundreds of years. So it seems like she gave up way too easily, or gave in way too easily when it came to helping the same person twice. Now, I was very suspicious from the beginning that he was a part of it. It just seems way too obvious that he was a part of it. Like, why would you come to her, first of all, with the same person that you've helped in the past, knowing that you guys don't help the same person twice? It just seemed really suspicious. And then the CIA guy waving at the people who were spying or watching this whole thing go down when she met up with them, or when they met up with them to find out who they were saving, and he just waves at them. It was that wouldn't happen in real life. It was ridiculous. And what if she would have turned around and saw it? That was way too risky to do. They could have found a better way to let us know that it was a setup, because of course they wanted the audience to know that it was a setup. And then the part where they escape the setup and now they're being hunted down, the part where they actually do find them in the hideout, the house that they're hiding out at, they only take Nikki, and I think the other guy's name is Joe. Don't quote me on that. They take them 2, and then Booker is just injured, sitting in a chair. If he was injured and he didn't get away, why didn't they take him? Explain that. You can't. And then why didn't the 2 ladies suspect anything? Like why are you still here? Why were they taken? It's not like they heard Andy and Niall coming back. It's like it looked like they had already left a few minutes earlier. So yeah, that is what I really did not like about the first movie. It just made things too obvious. When we found out that Booker was behind everything, it was like, We already knew that. You already knew that. Everybody already knew this, so it wasn't a surprise. Like, the twist was not twisting. So yeah, that was my main issue with the first one. Besides that and some other nitpicky things, I really liked the movie and the concepts of them being immortal and not really knowing why. Even though I'm a sucker for a vampire movie, it's a nice departure from that immortal narrative. They are basically regular humans, except that they can't die. Well, at least not yet. Now, the first Old Guard ends with the group leaving Booker to be alone in the world for the next 100 years due to his actions. Fast forward 6 months later, and they show him alone in Paris, drunk and stumbling up his apartment stairs. And of course, who's there waiting for him? The woman who was left at the bottom of the ocean. Her name is Quinn. So that's how the first movie ends. So when the first movie ends, you know, this movie was released back in 2020. So it's been 5 years since this movie was released. So I'm just going in thinking this movie is going to be top tier, top notch, no issues, great installment to this series of movies. So let's recap Old Guard 2. Okay, so Old Guard 2 opens with them on a mission to find out who is behind illegally dealing artillery. They are at a suspect's mansion and deliver an action-packed scene as they fight their way through bodyguards to get to the suspects. But wait, why is the guy who set them up in the first movie watching Andy's back and along for the ride like he's a part of the team? You banish Booker from the team for 100 years for his part in the setup, but you basically become buddies with the guy who was the actual mastermind behind everything. I know Andy said that he would be helping them with real missions, but that's way too close for comfort. He could have been helping in some other location. Honestly, why would she even trust him to help? And why even, why even trust him in the first place? I know you may say that he had good intentions for having them experimented on, but so did Booker, at least in his mind. Like, he thought he was helping Andy as far as her wanting to possibly become mortal. He thought that he was helping her. But back at their spot, they find out that the suspect isn't behind the arms dealings, and Copley presents a CCTV still image of the woman they actually are looking for. Literally no explanation. Just, here's a CCTV image I randomly got. Don't know where it came from. They don't give any explanation. Niall realizes that she's been having a dream about the woman, where she goes into this private library and steals books from a man who the woman also stabs in the dream. Now, it's not made clear whether or not Niall is the only one able to have these dreams about other immortals, because she has also had a dream about Quinn, who was at the bottom of the ocean. The other immortals have dreams too, but it seems like they're only able to dream about the new immortal or whenever there's a new immortal, but not just about immortals in general, because they didn't know about Tua or Discord, and those characters are going to be coming up in a minute, so they don't really make that clear. I would like for that to be cleared up. Now, after this, I guess they're on some type of break from crime fighting and split up. So Niall and Joe, or Nikki, one of them, discover that he has been in contact with Booker, but he's missing. So Booker's missing. Meanwhile, Copley and Andy go see the guy in Niall's dream named Tua, who we discovered saved Andy all those years ago from captivity and is another immortal. The woman in the CCTV photo is named Discord and was also there at the time with Tua. Seeing Quinn and Andy being treated horribly made her cynical of mortal humans and believed that amassing great wealth would protect her from cruelty from mortals. Now, I do like that whole setup, because we didn't really know in the first one, like, how did Andy escape? Why was Quinn the only one who was put at the bottom of the ocean? So now we get to find out, like, how that all went down. So I do like how they kind of laid that out for us and how that happened. So Andy comes back with Tua and discovers that Booker was taken by Quinn, who wants to meet up with her. Basically, Quinn is pretty pissed that Andy gave up looking for her. And honestly, I would be pissed too. Like, you literally have all the time in the world. You could have taken 100 years to really map out a plan to try to find her. It's not like she was in any ocean. I'm sure there was an actual ocean that she knew that she was dropped in. So the search area wasn't going to be too much for her to use to actually try to find her. So I didn't get how she didn't find her. It sounds kind of crazy. But it all comes together when they figure out that Discord, the woman from the dream, saved Quinn, and Quinn is somewhat working with her. I honestly just really think that Quinn is just mad at the world and she wants to destroy everything and just burn everything down. I don't think she really cares about what Discord has going on. So while Niall did go with Andy to meet Quinn, she happens to see Discord nearby and follows her into a church. Discord tells Niall that Andy needs to stop meddling in human business because it's the reason they get hunted. She also informed Niall that she's the last immortal. Niall is the last immortal and Discord is the oldest immortal. And she lets Niall know that Niall is stronger than she knows. In the meantime, Tua tells Booker that there's a theory that Niall, the last immortal, can take away someone's immortality by injuring them, and then the person whose immortality gets taken away can pass it on to someone else as long as the other person is willing. Now, how exactly is the immortality transferred to someone else? Is it just automatic? Do they just close their eyes and make a wish? Is there like just fairy dust sprinkled? Like, they don't make this clear. Also, I did have to go back and look at the first movie because they said that Niall made Andy lose her immortality when she stabbed her the first time. But it actually happened when she was injured the second time. So Niall, when Andy took her in the first movie, she stabs Andy. And then I'm assuming Andy recovers from that because there's no mention of the stab wound. And then at a different later part, Andy kind of like flexes her fingers as if she's like having some type of muscle aches or something. So they do kind of show that. So that must be kind of when it starts transitioning. And then when she's fighting those henchmen or whatever you want to call them who were hunting them down, she gets a cut on her shoulder and that's when it doesn't heal. But when Booker intentionally makes Niall cut him, also when Quinn gets cut later, they lose their immortality instantly. So what's that about? Explain that. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. So why did Andy, it take her some time for her to lose her immortality, but everybody else, they just losing it like that, like with the flip of a switch? And then of course, Booker does purposely lose his immortality so he can give it back to Andy. Now Discord lures the group to a nuclear plant where they plant a bomb. Long story short, Discord lost her mortality and wants the immortals so that Niall can kill them and give her back her immortality. But if the person who loses their immortality has to give it to the other person, how is that going to work? Like, they're not going to want to give their immortality to her. So what is killing them going to do? They're not going to give it to her. However that even works, I don't know. And then Quinn, like I said, also in the fight at the plant loses her immortality, and Discord is able to take off in a couple helicopters with everyone except Andy. Now Quinn will join her on the mission to find them. I really don't know why she forgave her, but she's gonna join her on the mission to find her, and that's how it ends. Now let's just do a recap of what I did not like about the second movie. So Copley being a part of the team when Booker was banished for 100 years. No real explanation for how the dreams work. That could be me being slow though. How does Tua even get to the theory about immortality being transferred, and how does this even work? Maybe they'll explain that in the future movies. The whole Andy being stabbed was when she lost her immortality, but that's literally not true. It wasn't like instant like everybody else's in the second movie. So I do feel like this movie was kind of all over the place and it did lack some depth. In my mind, this isn't a regular superhero movie where someone gets chemicals spilled on them and turns into a mutant. Andy has a ton of history and a very rich backstory. I really wanted to see more of her backstory in this movie, but all we got is the scene where her village was destroyed as well as everyone in it. But this is when she comes back to life. So it's obvious that they're going to drag out her backstory. I'm hoping for a third movie and will tune in because I'm loving the concept of them really not knowing how they're immortal, but also are regular humans. They don't have any superpowers like vampires or superheroes, but they make a conscious choice to do good. I'm honestly just really intrigued by supernatural shows and movies, especially when it features immortality. It really has me grappling with my own mortality and if I would want to be immortal or if it's actually a curse. This is why Booker has my favorite character arc because he is really struggling with this very thing. Not necessarily with, it doesn't seem like him necessarily being immortal, but him being willing to set up the group so that Andy can figure out how not to be mortal anymore, or he's willing to lose his immortality to give it to Andy. So even though he set them up, he honestly seems like he's the most devoted to Andy. So in the third movie, I want to learn more about Andy and her origins. So please explain the dreams and the transfer of immortality better. And do more with the couple of whose names I barely can remember. Nikki, Joe, don't know which is who's who, which is which. Like, I definitely want to hear more about them and their story. I'm sure they're going to explain more in later movies, but in these two, they were just there. They didn't really have a purpose, to be honest. Also, can we address the elephant in the room? So in the first movie, Andy was losing her faith in the cause because she didn't feel like they were making a difference. But Copley showed her that when they save someone 2 or 3 generations in the future, someone who descended from a person she saved would do like a lot of good that would change the world, basically. This encouraged her to believe in helping the world again. But what about the opposite? Her saving someone could cause some messed up stuff to happen 2 or 3 generations in the future. Like, I would really like to see this addressed. I know it's a little dark, but come on, this is like reality. If you're gonna explore one side of that, I think we should explore the other side of that. Like, we live in like a yin and yang world. There's always 2 sides to every coin. That's just the world we live in. So I want to see the other side of that in the future movies as well. So you tell me, am I being too critical of this movie? What did you think about the movie? And are you looking forward to the 3rd installment? Let me know. That's all I have. Bye.